Hi, everyone. Okay, so welcome to the space, first and foremost. I hope you're doing good. Okay, so I've been sitting with what I've been picking up on through the readings into this 2023. And depending on when you find this, of course, it may be different. Either way, I hope this gives you maybe some kind of information and it'll help you. This will be particularly astrological, so if there are some words that you don't know, or depending where you are in the path, get a notebook and a pen or a pencil, and any words that are repetitious or what have you, write them down, and then feel free to do your own research, okay? There are lots of wonderful opportunities now with the libraries we have, books that are available, the electronic library of the internet, right? Things like that. We'll use these things as a tool because that's what they are. So particularly, hi Chickadee, hi Zoomy. So Aries actually reading was a little, it's been intense. Oh, there's little kinglets. Those are so cute. They have like a yellow belly, right? When Aries energy is a little bit scared, it's hard, right? Because Aries is the warrior. So what I wanted to mention, I guess we'll just get into it. And I will be looking at this tropically, and this is averagely speaking. I'm not going into certain degrees. I'm just giving a highlight of what I realized. Now, for those of you who can see, please be so grateful. It is a beautiful blessing to be able to see, right? And to hear. So, but what we have going on here, and this is for everyone, okay, is basically what I put together is that Taurus, Aries, Pisces, Aquarius, and Capricorn, so we're going from one Earth all the way to Earth, right, is highlighted. Now, I'd like to mention something. So there are two different, in ways, okay, planets, the word, when people say planets, it means, it's French. It means, planet means wandering star. It means, again, it wanders. It goes direct. It goes retrograde, meaning we can see it. It turns invisible. There are stages to it. All the other fixed stars in the sky, they just stay as they are, and they move every day and night as they are. And then as they connect to the one seemingly, whoever invented astrology, well, I guess that would be God, but however humans have interpreted it, these are the ones that we connect to ourselves. Now, there is a difference between personal planets and when we get into outer energy. Now, the thing is all of these are outer. So personal planets, if you will, just so you're aware, personal. Oh, come on, purple. No? Okay, black it is. That's fine. It's the color of Saturn. So, personal energy in your map, well, personal planets are Sun, Moon, which are actually called luminaries. They're not stars, right? It's a different energy, but personal, all the same, very personal. Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus. Look at these little people, right? They look like people too. Mars. These are our personal planets, okay? Once we reach this edge, then we start moving into like outer energy, right? It still affects us, but on a different level. Jupiter, which are, we'll call them outer, I guess, outer planets. These are also, in a sense, 3 out of these 5 are generational. So it means that, you know, say you're born, it depends on the timeline of the star itself, but a lot of people born in a certain generation will have, like baby boomers, for instance, most of them have Uranus and Leo. Right, in the 80s, we had Saturn in Libra, right? In the 90s, then we got into, Pluto in Libra. And then we go forward, it's like Pluto and Scorpio, etc. There's these generational energies. And to me, that's a lot of karma through our generational line, our family line. This also, if you believe in other lives, this also deeply connects to that. And to me, generational energy can also be very scary because it's very unconscious. All these ones are this is like, think of this as conscious energy, right? Oh, conscious. This is sort of unconscious until we change the dynamic, okay? So outer planets are Jupiter and Saturn. You can tell that they sort of mirror each other in their glyphs. Generational energy is Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, which are all fairly discovered in a more, earlier energy. And I've been wondering if we're supposed to say these or see these. I mean, it can be helpful, but it's also, I don't know. It's another story. So what's being highlighted here is this unconscious, external kind of energy and how that connects to how we feel as an individual. Okay? So, if you have any personal stars, you could also look if there's anything outer here too, because that's a double unconscious, but the personal is going to be felt more, right? For instance, Aries was this deep energy of like, when Aries again gets scared, it's an odd energy. It's like when a man cries, right? You're like, what do I do? Or when Aries cry, it's like, what do I do, right? Aries fire becomes emotional. Again, that's another thing. I also highlighted these so that Taurus, the bird's in the way. So that Taurus is earth, Aries is fire, Pisces water, Aquarius earth, which is also a bit of, Aquarius is air, but also a bit of earth, ruled by Saturn. Then we go up to Capricorn, which is earth. So, let's start small here. So basically, for everyone, collectively speaking, we have this whole chunk of our map is being highlighted by that which is outside of us. This is not 1/10. It's not 1/12. It is not even 1/3. It's not 1/4. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're almost getting to if we had one more sign here, and if we put Mars in here, but that's personal, we're keeping it out. This is almost 50% of our map is being highlighted, and they all are in line with one another. I want to say that this is called a garland, but don't quote me on that. But when things are all lined up like this, it makes it stronger, right? It's like a string. I do think it's called a garland. So there are these heavier energies. Now, if you happen to have, say you're a Taurus sun, Aries sun, Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, if you have any personal planets here, again, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, then this is going to feel really intense. And of course, some of these are going to shift, right? But it's still all sort of staying in this element. Now, if we go from one end to the other, what we're talking about is Saturn, trine. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, and that trines because all trines are the same element, and trines represent an opportunity, right? And in essence, if we recognize the opportunity, then it actually gives us a benefit. but that benefit, I sometimes call it the lazy aspect, because it gives information and it gives, again, an opportunity. But it comes from good effort Saturn put forth prior, whether this is previous in your life or in past lives, etc. So basically, the ruler of Capricorn, Saturn, the ruler of Taurus is Venus, which is actually really beautiful. Let's read. Let's give that, because this is the undercurrent of energy that is happening, and I feel like this would be helpful. Okay. It says, in the past, in previous experience, these individuals have begun the work of balancing the seriousness of life with the ability to demonstrate their affections. Like the sextile, this has the ability to form long-lasting, reliable friendship. They, although this can only create a very few close friends. You know, kind of like, because in reality, most people got a handful of friends, right? Facebook friends don't count. Party friends don't count. Friend is thrown around a lot. It's a loose term now. And it would be nice if it was meant. But the reality is a friend, a really true friend, there is reliability upon that. There is time put into that. There is seriousness, right? Friendship isn't where it's just, what do they say? Like, you know, fair weather friends are not friends, right? Things like this. So it's also having us look at our friendships, look at our relationships, really, and see what we can rely upon. Now, the cool thing is the friends that people do have in their life, that which, because that's the foundation of anything. You know, even when you become older, you know, from a child to an adult, you finally realize, like, of course, there's still a respect value between you and your elders, but it becomes more of this friendly energy, you know, where you finally figure out, like, oh, my mother can be more like my friend, or my dad's more like my buddy now, versus, like, the disciplinary or disciplinarian or what have you, right? It's a conscious recognition. But friendship, very important. Now, so I would say that it would be important to look to the friends that you have and to check in. We're looking at loyalty and trustworthiness, right? It's okay, baby. This also, no, it's okay. This also shows a person, meaning whoever's here, what we're talking about is a person, you. It says, will be loyal and faithful in return, right? Those who are loyal receive loyalty. Those that are trustworthy receive your trust. Trust, Saturn, does not come, right? Sometimes Taurus is naive. Just like Sagittarius, it's very optimistic. Venusian energy, Jupiterian energy, Pisces, Taurus, can be a bit naive. It's because it's so optimistic that sometimes it doesn't realize what's really going on. Neptune, Venusian energy, right? It's like overly forgiving. Now, forgiveness is good, but you still got to know what's trustworthy or not, because then you will also, Saturn, be able to protect yourself from evil or violence or manipulation, etc., right? Not put yourself in a dangerous situation, or at very least get yourself out of it. It says, sometimes these individuals fear that they are not much fun at a party because of their essential seriousness. I would say this causes seriousness, right? It's kind of like with that Saturn and Venus together, which is actually transitorily have been together for a while. It's, again, it's looking at the practical nature of love as well. This is a big part of life, right? Can I rely on you? What can I rely on? It says it is best to be in smaller groups. Now, this is not suggesting Aquarian kind of secular sorts of little groups, you know, where it breaks down so small that no one even feels a part of the group that they're in. It's not about segregation. Although small communities, you know, think about the indigenous people, like small communities, it really does, that creates strength, right? It creates a community, and that which whatever community touches another community would be love between that, right? Not a big wall. So it says, however, parties and social groups need the stabilization of serious people. These individuals have a strong sense of responsibility towards their loved ones. They also have an inborn strength and courage to face life's difficulties, which I feel like that would be something that needs to be established in oneself, right? Is that we all have this inborn strength and courage to face life's difficulties, and when we don't, to me, Capricorn is God. So this is also available to us in this way, because it probably right now, I do feel like in this day and age, and maybe always, it's very important to know what you can rely upon, and where we find, it's okay, baby, where we find our security in that which we connect to, you know. Like, say the part where it's like these individuals have a strong sense of responsibility for their loved ones, like that's a beautiful thing. But if that's overwhelming or overdone, then what happens with Pluto is it becomes a control situation, because insecurity can actually create ego, self-centeredness, right? So something to be aware of there, undercurrent-wise, because with Uranus and Taurus, undercurrent being Venus, what we're talking about is having a different understanding about what love is, about what we value, this being generational also, what we value now. And in essence, we're supposed to be, in a sense, going back to more traditional, with all this Capricorn energy that's been happening for so long and will be happening sidereally for another 30 years with Saturn. But anyway, especially over the next 3 years is really huge. So going back to more natural things is also really important, but it's weird because Uranus rules sort of the internet and things like this. So does Aquarius. It's this different kind of energy and information that's coming in. So it's sort of, Saturn's also, this aspect here is also asking us in an earthly sense, like, especially with Saturn and Aquarius, it's like, okay, we've been gaining a lot of information, right? A lot of knowledge, say, over the last, I don't know, year, 5 years, however long. Let's say even with this Uranus transit, it's been about 5 in May, right? So now it's kind of like, all right, what information is still relevant, and how do I use the information that I have now that I've been gathering intellectually, right, in this mental space? How do I use that practically, Saturn, to ensure the longevity of what I love and where I live and what I'm connected to, right? Because we're all expanding in who it is that we are, but to do that, we have to change the definition of who we are. And that's hard to do with Aries, because although cardinal energy likes to change, it's Chiron's here too, technically. So it hurts to change, right? Think about the bud pushing through the bark of the tree in spring, right? It has to push through that bark, then it's going to make a little bud, then that bud's going to push open of that shell, and then the little tiny delicate petals open. And then even after that, the flower has to fade to be able to create a leaf, and then that leaf fades and everything goes back in, and then we start again. So I would also say that if you have any energy, if we look to the mirror of this, right, which is a lot. So we're talking about Cancer energy, which is going to mirror Oh, I'm sorry. Cancer here. Can you see that? Not really. So we have Cancerian energy here, which Mars will be going into, and that's pretty intense. Mars does not like to be in. It could create a feeling of confidence, but any insecurity and undercurrent, and maybe that's why we're talking about it now, because this isn't happening until more the middle of the year. You can burn yourself emotionally hardcore. You can really hurt yourself emotionally, so be careful with that. So because this is moon energy, right? So let's look at all the opposites. We have Cancer energy here. We have Leo energy here. So again, we're talking about moon. Here's sun. The opposite of Pisces is Virgo, which is mercurial. Here's all our... Okay, let's keep going. The opposite of Aries is Libra, which is Venus. And the opposite of Taurus is Scorpio, which is Mars. Oops, sorry. Which is Mars. Now, if we look at this, what are we talking about? Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars. It is all of this outer energy. All of this, because to me, this is karma. This is our karma as people, right? And so, and these are big life lessons, and they don't affect us only as a personal ways. It also is reflected into the world that is, but who we are as a person, how we define that, what we find valuable, what we find important, what we deem to be like, hi sugar, oh I love you so much, what we love, what we respect, how we respect ourselves, how we love ourselves, how we love nature, how we love what we do. This will be reflective to the world that is created. So this is see again, this is all personal energy is opposing all of this bigger energy over here. You see what I'm saying? That's a lot to hold. So we're holding this. I guess it is a spider web. So it means it takes hard work. You know what I mean? To do this, it takes a lot of, again, courage to get out of the spider web, to put in the hard work like a spider does, know where to be, know how to work with what you have, like the resources, Saturn, Capricorn energy, the resources that we have. I mean, goodness gracious, what's left over? There's only two things here, and this is like, okay, what is this? Gemini and Sagittarius. Those are the two that are free right now. What are we talking about? What we've learned from our experiences. How we talk, like what our conversation is with our inner child or with our childhood. Because this is also child, parent, right? Student, teacher, etc. And we are both of these all the time, and the nodes just went through this space prior. And what was that? It was North Node here, South Node here, where it's kind of like already been there, done that. Right? And now, because that's another thing that's going to happen, is the South Node is going to move over here in Libra. The North Node will be in Aries. And the thing about that is that's pretty heavy on Libra. Because air is always willing to let go. That's why Libra teaches Taurus about how to cut things off, how to realize you can't graze in that one spot forever. You gotta move your field around, right? You gotta switch what's happening here. So, because this could just be having the same conversation over and over and over and being like, what do I do? What do I do? What's going on? What's going on? But it's like not coming to any resolve about it, right? It's like teeter-tottering mentally. So let's give some space between these for a second. So again, I need you to remember that if you have any personal stars in Taurus, Aries, Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, take the star that you have, Sun, Moon, Rising, or Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and look up, say, it doesn't have to be exact. It's just going to give you an indication, say you have Sun you have Taurus Sun, then the Sun and Uranus right now are together in the same house. It's a conversation. If you're Aries, etc., and look up what that means. It would all be, it would be a conjunct. It's a conjunction, which means marriage. But it's also a blind spot. It's hard to see, and so if you have any personal stars over here, again, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, this is going to be in opposition to any of these. Okay. And maybe that's something that you'd also want to talk about. Now, there's a few aspects here that I also wanted to discuss quickly before we run out. I don't want to go too long with this because this is kind of an infinite conversation again, but it's sort of what can we use with this. So let's look at Uranus right now, trine Pluto, okay? Because generally speaking, this is happening, and that's a big one. No. Let's start with the difficult. Let's start with Jupiter is the closest because Jupiter comes after Mars, then Saturn, then Uranus, then Neptune, then Pluto. These are the time frames where the cycle takes longer to go around. So let's look at the mirror. Feel free to look up these ones also. Uranus trine Pluto, Uranus square Saturn, Jupiter square Pluto, Jupiter sextile Saturn. Okay? But let's start in the beginning and let's look at the mirror. Jupiter in opposition to Libra, right? Yeah, Jupiter in opposition to Venus. So what are we talking about here? I'm going to read from this book because I like her perspective. So it says, an awareness should be developed in learning self-restraint. Because of their love of socializing and fun, they can become carried away beyond the realm of good taste. However, they are optimistic, positive, and cheerful people who always are willing to share whatever they have with others. It reminds me, though, of when my mother used to be like, I'd be like, hey, can so-and-so come over for lunch or dinner? And my mom's like, I can't feed the whole neighborhood. Sorry. You got to know what you have and how much you have to give. It says, with Jupiter opposition, Venus energy, again, undercurrent, there is a need to watch the tendency to spend money that they cannot afford, to spend, again, where they cannot afford. There is an ability to handle people and still be liked, which is a good thing. There can also where one can experience difficulties over their personal resources. This includes money, any possessions, talents, sense of self-worth, which kind of makes sense, right? It's like, if this is expanding who you are, and this Aries is so optimistic, but Venus is like on the other side, it's like, am I good enough? Am I worthy? So this can also create marriage partners, any cooperative relationships, in-laws, courts of law, etc. One can experience difficulties. There's challenges there, so you have to be aware of them. Right? Don't ignore them, because with Jupiter, it's going to expand it anyhow. And if there is any difficulty, it would probably be a reflection of where, again, if there's insecurity, then sometimes this creates, it's like where the empath, narcissist sort of opposition, what used to be popular for a while there, really the empath is actually a undercover narcissist, right? The one that's always that's blaming the empath is the narcissist when one is wrapped up in insecurity, right? Because again, it goes into Pluto and makes this weird control thing, which is not healthy. So let's move forward. Saturn opposition Sun energy. So these are things, just undercurrents to be aware of, okay? Because wherever there's an opposition, we have to create awareness. So as Saturn in opposition to the Sun, it says an awareness should be developed so that individuals do not focus their energy towards self alone. They are being asked to compromise with others in order to remove any tendency towards self-interest. Thus, they may encounter difficulties with their children, their lovers, over their creative endeavors, with those they work with in their professional career environment, society in general, and or their parents, especially their father. Because when one is changing, again, and expanding, changing what they feel is important and who it is that they are, and finding new spiritual spaces and new pathways in their mind and shifting their soul, then other people may be like, who are you? And this is where you have to compromise, right? Because when a person changes, if you're in a situation, again, this is high woodpecker, right? If you're too hard-headed about it, like, well, I'm going to leave that person, I'm going to divorce them, you have kids with them. It's like, don't be dramatic. You know, it's just coming into this situation without any fear about who it is that you are, and also understanding that when, say, a person changes, it's going to be difficult for the other person, right? It reminds me of the seasons reading. I realize that things aren't changing, they're growing, okay? So something to be aware there. Saturn opposition Sun too is also where there's issues of authority. So those who are really anti-authority, where it's just like overall energy, this would be where there was a lack of fatherly, the father in the home, or where the mother had to be more like the father, and so really they're mad at the mom and the dad, but that's another story. So let's keep going. Next in line, Uranus opposition Mars. That sounds pretty strong to me. I can't use my intuitive abilities right now to read like that because I've been tired, so I'm watching my energy. Hey, baby cakes. So, Mars in opposition to Uranus. An awareness should be developed where people must learn, because remember, this is collective energy. People must learn to patience. At times they become very impatient with people. This impatience, remember, this is undercurrent energy. The impatience may cause them to become irritable or even angry. They can attract disruptive people to themselves in order to learn how to handle explosive situations. I also see this as a mirror into your own explosive nature. Those of you who repress, sometimes Taurus will do that, where it stuffs its feelings down. It's very easy sextiling to Cancer and Pisces energy. It just puts your emotions, your hard emotions, the Scorpio, the other side, where it just like is death and murder and all the heavy shit. All the hard feelings, anger, hatred, resentment, jealousy, you just stuff them. Taurus can do this and just try to be, again, optimistic, but everybody gets angry. Everybody has situations in their life where they're upset. Not suggesting that we're meant to be that. Again, we're supposed to learn patience, but having that within yourself is also important. It says outwardly, these individuals here are quite orderly and conventional. They have the capability of utilizing Martian energy for unusual creative talents. Awesome. When angry or upset, these individuals should seek a quiet place to calm and relax their nerves. And this is what I'm talking about, is where there's an ability to do this. But this is also where you have to remember, Taurus rules the throat, and in way communication, you have to come back in and talk about that. Okay? Don't repress it, because then you'll be dumping in Scorpio's backyard, which will only cause more suffering to your own soul anyway. It says, unlike the square aspect, these individuals do not suffer from restlessness, but they too should find some outlet for their energy bursts. Since there is a tendency to move impulsively, there can be a proneness to accidents or mishaps. So, learning to think before moving would eliminate any accidents. This also expresses the experiencing difficulty over other people's approaches to life with their friends and or social groups, right? So no judgment in that either, right? All right, let's move forward. Neptune in opposition to Mercury, again, undercurrent. This is what we're learning collectively here. Okay. In opposition to Neptune. An awareness should be developed that everyone has faults, and therefore no one should be placed on a pedestal or kicked in the face, right? It says there is a tendency to place loved ones and very special friends on a pedestal. This reminds me of this Taurus undercurrent trine Venus energy that we talked about, right? Where there's a strong tendency to protect. My family can do no wrong. It's like, no. Everybody can do wrong. Everybody has faults. It says, okay, so no placing loved ones or very special friends on a pedestal, okay? It says because when that individual inevitably falls off, these individuals are totally disillusioned, right? Like, oh my God, how could you do that? It's just like, well, anybody can do anything. We're all capable of anything, positive and negative. It says the disillusionment can cause them to turn their backs on close relationships with others, right? And therefore must learn to accept that everyone has human frailties. They must learn to sort out the truth from the untruth, and must, for this aspect, gives many inspirational dreams that could become a source of creative ideas, particularly through literature. I see, or oration. This is also creating a sensitive nervous system, right? And so one should also seek places of peace and quiet each day for at least 15 minutes. Just to kind of settle in there, right? Find your Zen, find some quiet, talk to God, right? Virgo Pisces, to me, that axis is one of the strongest axes to God. Probably is the way through in one way to me. So it says, because nervous system, remember, it can be so activated, difficult, like movies, even commercials with like big loud sounds or car crashes or any of that kind of stuff, even difficult news on the radio or anything that you see visually, it's going to trigger our nervous system. And every day we get stressed. So you want to make sure, you'd want to make sure that you are giving yourself time to release what has happened. Because even if you didn't watch TV, even if you didn't do any of these kind of, again, external things, there are people in our lives, there are things they're going through internally, and you want to give yourself that time, okay? Because because this is an opposition, it's going to give individuals experiences that are slightly difficult with relatives, neighbors, fellow workers, those who serve them, and or friends who are actually their hidden enemies in former lives. So again, the truth from the untruth, right? Because there could be, again, disillusionment. You know, sometimes, and I'm not condoning any kind of, you do what you got to do in your life and figure out your truth, untruth, whatever, wherever, and whatever that is. But like, you know, there are friends, there are frenemies, there are enemies. Some people are obvious in this way, some people are not, and we learn from all of them. But it's really important to know who your enemy is. And, you know, if say in a personal sense, a people sense, but this is also knowing the enemy within, because this could be a mental enemy where one is afraid of themselves or loses faith. So that, again, quiet time could be very helpful. Okay. Now, last but not least, let's go to Pluto opposition the moon. Again, undercurrent energy. Which moon to me is mind, is the mind, is our emotional well-being. It's our mental health. So it's a big one. This is why in Eastern astrology, you know, the Lagna is so important. Even beyond your sun sign, okay? So, especially if you're a woman, my God. Okay. Moon and Pluto in opposition to the moon. It says an awareness should be developed so that one will see others as they really are. This is kicking back to that truth, untruth, and not as they wish them to be. Emotions are especially strong and difficult to control, causing them to be very, very happy or very, very sad, right? This is a big swing of emotion. This is like, can be manic energy, right? It's also like when one has Capricorn moon, or any kind of Saturnian moon, or where the moon space is afflicted some way, somehow. It can cause these big highs and ups and downs. But remember, this is also collective energy where it's like, sure, it's good to be happy-go-lucky, but if we don't process when feelings do come up, please process them. Please allow them some space so that the soul can be more at ease. Because when we experience pain, whether it's emotional or physical pain, what happens is we disassociate from our own physical, our pain body. And what happens is it's almost like the soul like hovers. It's like when a person gets too drunk, it's like their spirit leaves them and the dark spirit goes in, you know. And so we want to make space so that we can connect more to the soul, not be afraid of our shadows so much. So it says true friends understand these emotional swings. Okay, we're going back to here, Saturn trine Venus energy, what this is bookending, right? What did we say in the beginning? It was like, who is really loyal and trustworthy? Because no fair weather friends, no fair weather family, no fair weather anything. Fair weather, the weather change. Where I'm from, they say, you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. It's too erratic, though. Do you know what I mean? You want something that's consistent. Friendship is so important. Foundations of our relationships. And how relationships start, remember, Saturn, it speaks volumes to what it is, whether this is romantically, what have you. It says, true friends understand these emotional swings and will try to help them overcome this tendency, right? So here's support. And also, it's support. It says, with this aspect, we're talking about learning to not be possessive or jealous of their loved ones. Again, trying to control that which we love. This also goes into some, especially those of you who are deeply protective, or I'm not saying that a mother shouldn't protect her child. I'm not talking about a husband not wanting to protect his family. That's important foundationally. But the possessiveness of it, or the not giving them freedom to mosey around, right? Putting the cow in a little, where it can't turn around, like, no way. So letting go again of possessiveness or jealousy. It says, since what we're talking about here is when one is possessive or jealous or controlling, we could even look at this in a governmental sense. It's because what they actually want, people want when they do that, is freedom themselves, but they don't know how to find it in themselves, you know. So it is important to grant it to those that you love as well, freedom to be who they are. It says this can cause experiences where there are emotional difficulties with parents, especially mother. I could say this could also be children, with being the moon. Those you live with, the home, you know, that you establish away from your parental home, and with people in your organizational groups, right? There could be like power dynamics. So again, this is kind of undercurrent energy. And what's cool about it is this is we're just creating this awareness. But it would make sense that it's hard to accept maybe where we're at or how we want to go about it. So I thought I would just share. Because remember, this whole part of your map, from Capricorn to Taurus, is super duper duper highlighted. Okay? And the thing is about generational energy, particularly these ones, they last anywhere from 7 years. This Uranus is 7 years. Neptune is 12 years. Pluto can be anywhere from 12 to 30 years. So these are big chunks. You know what I mean? This is gonna stay here for a while, so you want to be aware of this. And recognize that I suppose all this personal energy over here as the undercurrent is really important, which let's look at one more, because this Saturn, again, the ruler of Capricorn, trine, the same element, Taurus. Let's look at the personal to close this out. This would be Mars, trine the moon, right? Cancer, which is water. Scorpio's water. Always, trines are always in the same element. Remember that. The modalities, cardinal, mutable, fixed, are always square. It's adjusting things. So let's look at this, because I do feel like this would be helpful. Just a second. Okay, it says in the past, individuals have begun the work of balancing their emotions and their desires. Now, of course, this is just undercurrent energy. So for some, when we were talking about this Venus trine Saturn, Moon trine Mars, some people haven't begun this yet. And that's what they are beginning, right? So it depends where you are in the path. Just remember that. And we all have learning to do. My God, every time I think I know something, I don't know nothing at all. That's why I'm just reading out of this book. So basically what we're doing here is the work of balancing emotions and desires. This includes anything in which a person enjoys or appreciates, whether it's physical, spiritual, mental, emotional. The balancing of these emotions and desires are so that the energies can now be utilized in creative and constructive ways, right? Versus deconstructive, right? Mars. And this is also going to emphasize when Mars goes into Cancer energy this year. Now, the cool thing is this aspect gives good recuperative powers when ill also, right? This could be mental illness. This could be physical illness. It could be where one has actually really beautiful vitality and can regenerate themselves and give themselves, because Mars in Cancer, again, it's not a comfortable place, but it can also create great emotional strength, right? Which in essence, I suppose, is that Chariot. This also gives a person that is resourceful. They are aware of their resources. They know when they're full. They know when it's getting half. They know when they got to fill it up, etc. It's a gas tank. It also creates courage and strong, again, vitality. I just looked down to this, and it is important because this moon undercurrent right now is squaring Cancer to Aries. Are both cardinal. It's right here. So let's read this. It says the challenge is one of dissolving pride. There could be an internal fears about facing any negative traits in one's personality. This emotional fear can be overcome by developing a good philosophy of life and by recognizing again that everyone has imperfections. This can cause suffering from inner distress, particularly from their parents, mothers, specifically, and from those that they live with in the home, especially that even from your parental home, from in-laws, and possibly even from lawsuits. So again, let's just go back up to the top. The challenge, I suppose, of this whole situation, worldly, interpersonally, is the dissolving of pride. And what's the opposite of pride? Humility. And the thing is I feel like life gives us many times over ways to feel humiliated. You know, whether it's just being embarrassed in yourself, expressing yourself, or trying something new, or walking down the sidewalk and tripping, falling down, you know, dating the wrong person, not recognizing your own ability, or being whatever it all is. But what's interesting to me, what I've been sitting with a lot too, is like, we can be humiliated by, again, to balance that pride, but truly only the human themselves as an individual can humble the soul. We have to acknowledge that, because then we let go of control when we humble the soul. Okay. I think that's that for now. I hope this was helpful and just gave a little bit of an understanding of what is happening with this and why maybe it's felt so heavy, okay? And I know it's not exactly a resolve for how to go about it. Although my readings generally tend to be practical, for me to tap into all of this, for all of the signs and where it would be for you, and not being able to see your map particularly, makes it hard to really tap in. And again, I've been needing to check in with my own energy, and again, what I have, the resources, internally, externally. So either way, I hope this gave you some kind of insight and awareness to why, for instance, again, maybe it's felt dense, or, and please look. So nice to have the birds back. Please look to, I guess, again, a good philosophy on life, however you want that to be. And I would say with this, with Jupiter, with Aries, with Capricorn, it does have like a deep spiritual awareness there, right? Like some kind of connection, so that we don't feel alone, you know, or separated from God, or separated, you know, And I know over the past few years, there's been this energy of separateness and isolation, and it's actually a psychological, it's torment. It's psychologically tormenting too. You know, think about, you know, when you confine something and not let it interact, it's like it needs to interact. We need to interact and build, we need community that matters, and not communities that are against one another or groups that are against one another. It's about love and connectivity again. And again, being honest, because there are snakes in the grass. You know, you got to be aware of where you're walking and who you're walking with. And again, keeping that your understanding of I don't know, like why you're here. I know these are big questions, but coming up with, again, your own perspective on it, I feel like that could be helpful. And I don't know about you, but I tend to find a lot of peace through nature, because I know we didn't create all this. You know, we can't create water or oil, like petroleum. You know, there's certain things humans just can't create, where it sustains itself. Well, anything we try to create, we have to constantly fidget with it to make it keep going. That which the Creator has created just does it on its own. So I find a lot of faith through nature too. So wherever you find yours, and remember that good deeds and sharing the good news and being encouraging, as well as being honest, really, really helpful and important. Okay, I hope this is helpful. I love you. Please take care. And I'll talk to you next time. Lastly, I guess if you've also enjoyed this reading or these kinds of readings, this is a lot of what we do over on Patreon too. So if you're looking to learn more in that way, feel free to check that out. And if you're already a part of that space, thank you so very much. There's some really beautiful people over there. So many beautiful people here. Just really grateful. Thank you. And again, I hope this was helpful some way, somehow. All right. Love you. Peace.